Hey there, my name is Greg, and I help people cut back on their drinking. What I'm going to talk about today is one of the core processes in the method that you could say that I use with my clients. And I'm going to talk about how to make it work, how to overcome failure, because it's a simple process. It seems like a simple process, but people actually try it and have a hard time, or they intuitively know it's going to be hard, and I'm going to really make it very explicit what the problems are so that you could step by step get good at using this particular technique to as part of the things that you do to change your drinking. So the basic formula that's behind this, or what I'm talking about specifically, is setting constraints, and sometimes I refer to it as drink planning. And the basic premise of it is you're going to decide today what you'll drink tomorrow. So as I make this, it's Monday. So my task today, sometime on Monday, would be to make a decision about what I'm going to drink tomorrow, taking into account anticipated stressors tomorrow, social situation, responsibilities, opportunities, maybe duties that I have the following day on Wednesday. And this is really very different from the idea of just making rules for yourself, like I'm not going to drink on weekdays anymore. It's really very specific. Decide today what you'll drink tomorrow. And I have a whole lesson in this that talks about some of the parameters of good constraints. I'll put a link to that in the comments. So I don't want to go into that here. And again, I'm going to talk about how to make this work, how to overcome failure. So this seems like it should be a simple process. When people hear about this and they hear about this idea of, do it a day at a time as opposed to rules, they say, oh, that could work. Other people say, hey, this is just the same old bullshit. I've been trying to set constraints on myself forever and it didn't work. And so I'm going to explain why. I want to go through all the failure points that are possible, because there are some. So first thing that this is not a failure point. The first thing is you have to decide to do it. This seems so obvious, but it is so easy to consume information like this, to read my emails, to watch these videos, to read books, and say, oh, that sounds good, but never decide to do anything with it. And until you make some sort of a decision, it's all just useless information. It's completely useless. So first you have to decide to do it. Once you've done that, that doesn't mean you're going to do it perfectly. That's one reason that people don't decide to do things, is think, well, if I decide to do it, I have to do it perfectly. Well, that's a preposterous attitude that doesn't get you anywhere. Deciding just means I'm going to try it, I'm going to get started. So first you've got to decide to do it. And then the first failure point, once you've made that decision, is that you'll forget to do it. You'll forget about your decision. This is very normal and it's very okay. Fortunately, it's easy to overcome. We have these phones that have calendars that beep at us, and you put it on your calendar, a calendar entry, a reminder that says, plan today for tomorrow. So the first failure point is forgetting, which is easily overcome. The second is that you remember, but you don't plan. I'll come back later to the reasons why we do these things, but the first is to acknowledge, okay, I tried this process, but I really never did it. And the answer is not that you're a failure or that you're weak or you're undisciplined. There are specific reasons. So the first failure point is not planning. The second is that you plan, but you do it with poor quality. So like the ultimate poor quality plan is to tell yourself, I'm going to drink less. Pretty poor quality is to say, I'm going to quit drinking during the week. Again, in my lesson, I've got constraints for what are good plans, and you can plan, but you can do a poor job of it. Basically, a good quality plan says, okay, today's Monday, tomorrow and Wednesday, I'm not going to have anything to drink before 6 o'clock, and I'm going to stop at 3. A poor quality plan would be, I'm not going to drink in the afternoon tomorrow, and I'm going to have 2 or 3 drinks. And the other version of poor quality, when you do a quality plan according to my process, I've got actually a worksheet with some questions, and you do a little bit of introspection about why you're setting this constraint, why you're planning, and kind of think about it. And a really great quality plan would be, okay, I'm going to tomorrow not have anything to drink before 6. I'm going to have 3 drinks, And I want to have these 3 drinks because I feel like I'm going to want to relax. Anyway, you would write down the answers to those questions and really put some good thought into them. The next failure point is that you give up ahead of time. I'll just say before. All right, so you made a plan today to have these 3 drinks tomorrow, starting not before 6 o'clock. Tomorrow you're going through your day, and about 2 o'clock you start thinking about that drink in the evening. And you think, oh man, it's been a crappy day. It was actually pretty good this weekend. You know, I don't have anything important going on Wednesday. You start thinking, you know, oh, I'm going to miss it so much. It's going to be so awful. Or you might start thinking about the fact that, oh, I don't know if I'll be able to stick to 3 drinks tonight. And you start kind of anticipating failure. And all this worry about the future basically creates a lot of tension right now. And you basically don't want to live with that tension. And you say, today's not the day. And you basically give up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon before you ever even faced any of the constraints with your plan. Next way to fail, and this is probably the one that you think about most often, is you break it at the limit. So let's say the example is going to drink 3 drinks tomorrow night, and it's 9 o'clock. You've had your 3 drinks, and you think, yeah, I don't want to stop now. I want a 4th drink. That's kind of the classic way to fail in the planning process, would be to go ahead and have that 4th drink. And by the way, when I say fail, that's okay. To do anything hard, which is to say anything new, is going to involve failures. So you've got to resign yourself that once you've decided to do this, you're going to try to do it and have failures. And I'm just trying to break these out. Hopefully, one byproduct of this video is you'll get a little bit open-minded to the idea of failure and be willing to keep failing and keep sort of moving the failure points later in the process and figuring out why you fail so you don't keep repeating those failures. So this would be one, you break it at the limit. And then you could say a further failure would be how you handle it after. So you have your 4th drink when you plan 3, and then you think, well, what about a 5th? Do you have the 5th? And do you consider the 5th as its own decision, or do you at this point, maybe even once you had your 4th, you said, fuck it, the horse is out of the barn, all bets are off, and you just kind of go crazy. You forget that you had any plan at all. And then finally, the 4th the final failure, I'm going to separate this a little bit, is that you don't evaluate, or success is going to be created by evaluating, which in this example where it's Monday, I plan for Tuesday, some version of these things happen. The protocol I give people is that on Wednesday, you look back at Tuesday and you say, what happened? Did I plan? Did I remember? Why didn't I plan? If I remembered but I chose not to do it, what happened? Did I do a quality plan? Did I stick with my plan until it was time to face the constraint, or did I give up early? If I broke my plan at the limit, why? What happened? What was part of the decision-making process? What was going on that caused me to do that? Did I break it by 1 drink, or did I go crazy? And what was the rationalization? What were the feelings that led to that? And if you find yourself not evaluating, that is also a thing to do. The interesting thing about all of these is that every one of these failure points is going to happen in relation to what I call the drinking equation, which I talk about in some of my other lessons, is discomfort drives drinking. We can express this more generally as emotion drives action. And if you look at every one of these failures as a type of action, they all, except for forgetting, are driven by an emotion. If you don't plan, there's an emotion there. There's the emotion of apathy coming from the thought that this won't make a difference, or I can't do it anyway, or this is too simple, or this is too complicated. There's going to be an emotion that causes you not to plan. If you know how to do a quality plan and if you pay any attention to me, you will, because I tell you in about 5 minutes, you decide not to do a quality job, there's going to be a feeling and some thoughts there of, this is more complicated than it needs to be. I don't do this. I already know about all this. So there's going to be some emotion created by some thoughts that affect your willingness to do a quality plan. When you give up before, that is so clearly an emotional thing that when you start thinking at 2 o'clock about the drinking in the evening and you start getting yourself revved up emotionally about I might fail, I really want it, you start making excuses for yourself, you can really see how giving up before is completely an emotionally driven action. If you decide to have that fourth drink, there's definitely emotion going on. It might just be the emotion of desire that's fueled by dopamine from the previous 3 drinks. Or maybe you're still super stressed out and 3 hasn't solved the problem and you're dying to get rid of that stress. I doubt it, but that's possible. If your plan was to have 0 and you had 1, maybe that kind of a stress situation could be the action to, could be the emotion that led to the action of breaking it. All or nothing again, and then choosing not to evaluate. As long as you don't forget, and you can always solve that problem by putting a reminder on your phone, choosing not to evaluate is an emotionally driven action. And that's really the beauty of this process, is when you plan in a quality way, it increases your commitment. It makes it more likely that you're going to meet your plan, reduce your drinking, start to get the benefits of drinking less, start to see yourself as somebody that drinks less. That's all great. But I'd say even more important, especially in the early stages of the process, it's a tool to let you start to pay attention to yourself and watch yourself have emotions and see how they drive your actions. Because as you start to understand that link, especially in relation to your drinking, this is how you completely get mastery over this situation. All right, thanks.